Well, it's 8:31 here in Winnipeg. My name is Simeon Rusnak, your guest host here on Morning Light, and I'm joined by Danielle Pahud, an instructor in the Department of Astronomy at the University of Manitoba. She is here to talk about the big event, the solar eclipse that takes place today. Good morning, Danielle.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, what a pleasure it is to have you here. Many people have no doubt been talking about the eclipse. I, of course, checked social media this morning, and it's everything that people were talking about. But what exactly is going to happen?
It's a big event. And so today we have a total solar eclipse, which won't be visible from Winnipeg. We'll see a partial solar eclipse. But as viewed from a strip along the continental U.S., the moon will completely block out the sun. And so for strips of both north and south of that, the moon will block out parts of the sun. So here in Winnipeg, we'll have the moon blocking out about 80% of the sun.
Wow. So, the Facebook hype is warranted.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely a big deal. How often does something like this happen?
So solar eclipses in general happen 2 to 5 times per year. So they're fairly common, but total solar eclipses only happen about twice every 3 years. But they're only visible from small strips of land. And so being able to see one in your backyard is really quite rare. And so the last time we had the path of totality, where we can see the moon block out the sun completely over the States, was in 1979, and the next one will be in 2024. And so having a total solar eclipse be visible where you are is rare.
And it's nice that it's so close. Again, going back to the social media thing, I saw so many friends who are making the pilgrimage. Perhaps you had a couple.
Most people I know are taking trips to the path of totality to see the total solar eclipse. Yeah, and it's very accessible.
Well, we're very thankful that you stayed here in Winnipeg to let us know what's going to be happening. I guess the big elephant in the room, or the elephant over Winnipeg, are the clouds.
Yeah, it's fairly heartbreaking.
How's that going to change things?
Well, if they stick around,
fingers crossed they leave.
Fingers crossed they leave. We won't be able to see anything from Winnipeg, which is maybe the romance and the heartbreak of astronomy, is that it is weather dependent, or ground-based astronomy. But NASA is taking images from the path of totality, which hopefully there are places where it's clear. They're also taking images from lunar orbit, from Earth orbit above the clouds, and from orbit kind of between the sun and the Earth. So there will be lots of images. It just means that we need to be patient. We won't be able to see it by just looking up with our solar glasses.
Will there be perhaps a little darkening or anything like that, or do the clouds will really damper things?
I think the clouds might make it imperceptible. It might get a little darker, but...
fingers crossed that they managed to clear out. And we were chatting off the air. And there is that chance that maybe we might not get it at a peak moment, but it does last for quite a while, correct?
Right, yeah. So we'll first start to be able to see the moon covering a little bit of the sun at 11:40 this morning. We'll see the sun will be most covered at 12:57, and the coverage will slowly decrease and end at 2:15. So if there's a break in the clouds at any point in there, then we'll have a chance to see it.
So we'll be looking upwards.
As long as you have proper eye protection.
Well, that was the next thing I was going to ask you about. Is
Yes.
I know they're tough to come by. They're really sought after.
Yeah. So there are a number of ways to safely view the eclipse. You should never look directly at the sun. The Manitoba Museum and the University of Manitoba both have events where there will be many solar eclipse glasses available. If you can't get your hands on one, there are solar projectors, and so you can punch a small hole into cardboard or something that's opaque, and it will project a small image of the sun down onto the ground, and then you can safely watch the eclipse based on this projection. And so it's low tech, but you can safely watch the eclipse even if you don't have glasses.
Oh, well, that's pretty neat. You mentioned low tech, and you mentioned NASA, of course. So, all of us here, non-scientists, like me, are very excited about this event happening. But as a scientist, is there something particularly that you're going to be watching for? Is there something to be learned from the eclipse?
It's exciting. And historically, eclipses have played a larger role in scientific discoveries. But astronomers are still very excited by the eclipse, in that it gives us an opportunity to highlight advances in technology. And so for several years now, we can take measurements of the magnetic field of the sun right at the surface. And the magnetic field will extend up into the sun's atmosphere, which is called the corona. And we often try to model the corona for a field called space weather. And so for many eclipses, we'll take measurements of the magnetic field on the sun and then try and simulate the corona. And then when the eclipse occurs, we can say, okay, well, how well did we do? How close did we get? Something that's been done for the very first time this year is that now that we have the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter orbiting the moon, we have a really good idea of the topography of the moon. And so scientists at NASA have simulated exactly how the topography is going to affect the shape of the shadow here on Earth.
Wow.
And then combine that with the topography of Earth to say exactly what is the shadow going to look like. And so for the first time ever, we had this very detailed shadow of the moon crossing over the Earth.
And speaking of that shadow, it's a rather large thing, right? I mean, obviously the path of the moon covering the sun is going to take a fair bit of time, like you mentioned. I mean, it starts at 11:40 is when it begins. But that actual shadow, for those who are maybe tuning in from abroad, who have made their way down to an eclipse viewing party somewhere in totality, what's that going to be like?
The shadow is actually not huge. It's I would double check this, but I think it's only about 100 kilometers in diameter. And so you have to be in a fairly narrow strip to see totality. But if you are in totality and it's clear, then you'll see the moon slowly appear to cover the sun. And then there'll be just a couple minutes where the moon completely covers the sun. And then the sky will go dark. The light that comes from the corona is silvery. And you can start to feel a chill. So it actually cools off for a little bit. And then the moon keeps moving. And things brighten up again.
I mean, between scientists and us non-scientists, we're all super excited about it. But one of the things that I was wondering about is how does nature react? Like, take, for instance, birds. I think of birds right away. I'm sure many do. But how are they going to react to this big event?
Yeah, if they're in the path of totality, then, then they're often fairly confused by the sudden darkening. And so they'll often start exhibiting kind of roosting behavior. So they start to behave as if night has arrived.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally fascinating. You'd mentioned that the University of Manitoba has events going on. How do you plan on viewing this solar eclipse, if we can view it?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping to, I'm helping co-host the event. So I'll be giving some talks on exactly how eclipses occur, how to view it safely, some of the physics behind it. I'm really sorry.
No worries.
But I am hoping to take a couple minutes and just kind of watch.
Just to take it in. And you'd mentioned that there's all sorts of different ways that even if it is cloudy, we can see it online and that it's still going to be present for us here.
Yeah, social media for the first time is going to play a huge role. NASA's collecting images, so you can download an Eclipse Mega Movie app and contribute your images. And there's going to be a lot of live streaming, so there are a lot of opportunities to see it.
So I could go and contribute to NASA's research.
Yes.
This is like the coolest thing I've learned all day. Plus, there's an eclipse happening. It's just an exciting day for us here in Winnipeg and throughout North America.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Definitely appreciate it. Danielle Pahud is an instructor in the Department of Astronomy at the University of Manitoba. She was my guest this morning on Morning Light, providing us with Solar Eclipse 101, a celestial event that's a big deal. You might say it's out of this world. Yeah, just a little bit of a head shake there. Nice. All right. For more information, you can head to classic107.com. And remember, no matter from where you're viewing the eclipse, work, home, or one of the awesome sounding viewing parties, make sure to do so safely. Thanks so much, Danielle.
Thank you.